Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I hope you're having a good day. In my previous lecture, I discussed in detail lexical deviation. And in this lecture, which is the extension of my previous one, we will discuss phonological deviation. Let's begin and learn phonological deviation with Muhammad Imran. So, what is phonological deviations? Phonological deviations occur when there is phonological irregularities. So, what is phonological irregularity? Phonological irregularity occurs when there is omission. Omission of what? There will be omission of a sound. And a sound is omitted because a writer or a poet wants to attract the audience attention or to create stylistic effect. So then phonological irregularity occurs because of omission. One of the sound may be omitted. For example, you may come across with aphasis. What is aphasis? Aphasis is the omission of an initial part unstressed vowel. So when there is a syllable or there is a word and the initial part of a syllable or a word is omitted, this is called what? This is called aphasis. For example, we have a word that is amid and the initial part is omitted and it becomes mid. Similarly, we have a word that is alone and the initial part of the word it is omitted and here we have lawn. So sometime you may come across with the word lawn and you may come across with the word made, which would be actually amid and which would be actually alone. But the poet or the writer deviated. And how deviated? Phonological, the writers or the poets deviated. So this is technically called aphasis then. Now this phonological irregularity may be due to syncope. What is syncope? Syncope is the omission of a medial period of a word. You will have a word and one of like a letter would be omitted from the middle of that word. For example, we have a word here that is never. And in never, we see that v that is omitted. So then it is pronounced as ner, right? Similarly, we have a word here that is over. And v, it is omitted and it is pronounced as over, right? Over. So then when a medial letter or a medial sound is omitted, this is technically called syncope. Now, phonological irregularities may occur due to apicope. Now, what is apicope? Apicope is the omission of a final part of a word. When the final part is omitted, technically we call this omission as apicope. For example, we have a word here that is all, and from all, l, it is omitted and it is pronounced as all. Similarly, we have a word that is of, and from of, f is omitted and it is pronounced as o. And we have a word that is often, and from the often, you see that n is omitted and it is pronounced as of. So when the initial part is omitted, it is called aphasis. When the medial part is omitted, it is called syncope. And when the final part is omitted, it is called apicope. So you can conduct your research and you can apply this phonological deviation and investigate that how this poem is phonologically irregular, or what are the sounds which are not regular, and this irregularity may occur due to omission, and then omission can be aphasis and syncope and apicope. Further explanation to phonological deviation. They are conventional license of words composition. So poets have got a license, and that is called poetic license, and they can deviate phonologically from the expected and normal phonological rules. They refer to poets or writers. They change the pronunciation of the original words so that the poet may better and more easily arrange sound pattern to achieve their intended communicative effects. So why do the poets sometimes they omit and change pronunciation? They change pronunciation because they want to achieve their intended communicative effect. So that's why that sometimes we see that the poets they change pronunciation, right? Poetic license is writer's privilege to depart from some expected standard. So we have expected standard, right? Syntactic structures or morphological structure, or we have phonological structure. But the poets may deviate from these expected linguistic norms because they have got a poetic license and they have privilege to depart from some expected standard of a language. An example of phonological deviation. Till a. So here you can see this is actually the word that is all, but the final letters have been omitted. So till all the seas gang dry, my dear, and the rocks melt with the sun. You can see that from the we, the final letters th have been omitted. So it is the word is with, and this is the word all. Here the final letters are omitted, and here also the final letters are omitted. I will love these still, my dear. Again you can see that the spelling of the love is changed here, right? So this is a different pronunciation, right? I will love rather than love, right? So the letter O is replaced with the letter U. While the sands of life shall run. Again you can see here this is the word is of, and f is omitted, so the final letter is omitted again. So while the sand of life shall run. So this is the example of phonological deviation. Non-standard or mispronunciation. Sometime in a poem, while we read a poem, we may come across with intentional mispronunciation and non-standard pronunciation. That is because the purpose is what? The purpose is to vividly describe a character or true to life. Sometimes we may have non-standard pronunciation, so that is because we want to depict a character true to life. Or sometimes there may be mispronunciation. The purpose is to vividly describe a character. Because in everyday life situation, we may not pronounce all the words and sentences accurately and with standard pronunciation. So sometimes when you analyze a short story, a novel, so in a conversation or in a dialogue, you can come across with intentional mispronunciation and sometimes non-standard pronunciation. So it occurs because of these reasons, to vividly describe a character and to present the character true to life. Non-standard and mispronunciation we may come across while we read a novel. May God stop ye yet, yelled an old Irish woman who now threw open a nearby window and stuck out her hat. Yes, and you, she added, catching the eye of one of the policemen. You bloody, murdering thief, rock my son over the head will you, hard-hearted, murdering devil, or yeah. It's taken from the novel Sister Carrie. So the way of speaking revealed that the speaker is a working class woman. And we can't expect from a working class woman to speak with a standard pronunciation. So if a pronunciation is non-standard or one of the character mispronounced, so it means that the speaker is not highly educated. If, for example, we depict a character and that belongs to like a middle class or a middle working class, and we speak him or her with standard pronunciation, so we may not depict a character true to life. So a character can be true to life if, like in everyday life situation, a character speaks and the way you present also in a novel or short story. So then the character will be true to life, otherwise not. Now here we have spatial pronunciation. The purpose of spatial pronunciation is convenience of rhyming. In order to produce rhyme in a poem, so we use spatial pronunciation. Now you can see here that the trumpet of the prophecy, or yes, you will say that it is pronounced as wind. The trumpet of a prophecy, or wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? So in order to rhyme this wind with behind, so we will pronounce this wind as wind. We will say the trumpet of a prophecy, or wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? So in order to rhyme these two words, we will pronounce it we will mispronounce it, and then we will call it spatial pronunciation. So even if you pronounce this as wind, like for example, the trumpet of a prophecy, or wind, if winter comes, can spring before behind, then you will say it behind. So if you say wind, then it will be behind. Or if you pronounce it as behind, then you will pronounce it wind, even it is pronounced as wind. In order to rhyme it with behind, we will say wind. And in order to rhyme it with wind, we will say behind. Right? So sometime the poet will create and produce spatial pronunciation. Now this line has been taken from Shelley, Ode to the West Wind. Thank you so much. It was all about phonological deviation. In coming lecture, we will talk about graphological deviation, which is another level of deviation. So keep watching and enjoy learning with Muhammad Imran.